Thank you, Lisa. That was brilliant. Right. Next up, Diego, you ready?
Yeah.
I have to thank Ella for introducing me to Diego. She said, you should definitely get him to come and talk. He'll be brilliant. And I looked him up, and just everything about Diego is brilliant. 5 minutes, Diego, you ready?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
Here you go.
Yeah, no pressure, be brilliant. So, my name is Diego. For my PhD, I'm making vibrating underwear, and I'm here to tell you why I'm doing this and why I'm using taxpayer money to do this. So, I mean, the basis for what I'm doing comes from a thing known as embodied cognition, which is a growing stance in cognitive science and psychology that the mind isn't just influenced by the brain, that the body shapes the mind. Who of you recognize what this is? All right, so this was a famous experiment done, and this is a version of the same experiment where people were asked to write down letters with a pen, but they had to hold it in their mouth. What they didn't know, the subjects didn't know, was that some of them were asked to hold the pen between their teeth, and some were asked to hold the pen using their lips. And what happens is that it forms, you form different mouth shapes. And so some people actually end up smiling even though they're not feeling particularly happy that day. But at the end of the experiment, the people who were forced to make a smile actually felt better or had better physiological markers for happiness. And the people who were essentially frowning didn't do so well. Here's a really interesting experiment that's being done by, that was done in 2011 by an amazing group in Sweden. So who of you here knows the rubber hand illusion experiment? Okay, so the rubber hand illusion experiment goes something like this. I take an object, say this battery, and I take another person, and I touch their hand and this battery in the same kind of erratic pattern. And after a while, you get this really, really bizarre sensation that that battery is your hand. Our conception of who we are, of what our bodies are, of where our bodies are in space, is somewhat arbitrary and can be manipulable. In this experiment, what the experimenters did was that they got a subject to wear an Oculus Rift, and the subject could only look down and up. What the subject didn't realize was that there was actually another setup where a doll had a pair of cameras. So whenever the person would look down, it was actually, what they were seeing was the body of the doll. So they basically got the person to think that they were in another being's body, in this case, either a tiny 8-inch Barbie doll or a gigantic model. And they found something really interesting, which is that if you believe that you are bigger than you really are, you underestimate the sizes and the distances of things. And if you're really small, you think that everything is really far away and everything's really big. Our perception of the world depends on what we believe our structure to be. My own experience with embodied cognition comes from about 13 years ago. So my background is in computer science and in contemporary dance, which is a really weird mixture. And I was not a very good dancer, which is why I'm not doing dance now. But I was doing a Pilates class once, and one day I discovered the set of muscles that pull down my shoulder blades. And it was magical. I mean, what basically happened was I went from something like this to this. And for the first time, I swear, in my life, I felt present, I felt powerful, and I could see differently. I could see the horizon. And I just realized at that moment that because I had found these muscles that pulled down my shoulders, because I was able to rearrange my scapulae, I felt differently. I could think more clearly. And ever since then, I've discovered similar things. Like if I push with my feet, then this opens up my hip, and then I could swagger. And I never swaggered until then. I mean, and so that's kind of part of the story. Along the way, as in my training as a dancer, I discovered something called the Feldenkrais method. Does anyone know what? Any raise of show of hands? Okay. So it's an educational method that's all about improving your ability to move and sense yourself, and you do it through very slow, gentle movements. And you can either do it kind of being guided and no one's touching you, and you're doing these small, gentle movements with some audio feedback, or someone could be touching you like this. This is called a functional integration session, and Look it up. I don't have time to really go into it, but I'm such a big fan of it. And then in one of the functional integration lessons, I learned that you can touch the spine in a certain way, and you feel incredible afterwards, and you feel more, I felt more alive, more integrated. And this is why it's called functional integration. At the end of a Feldenkrais method class, I often feel like I'm whole. Like I'm made out of different parts and they're all integrated. And I was thinking, I really want to give this experience to my parents because they're aging, and this is the kind of thing that I think they would really benefit from. The problem is they're 6,666 miles away from here. I looked it up just like 10 minutes ago. That's how far away Manila is from London. So I was wondering, how can I touch my parents from a distance? And so what I'm doing now is I'm taking all the principles from things like the Feldenkrais method, and I'm making vibrating underwear. So what this is, this is a close-up. These are cell phone motors that are embedded down the back of this thing that you can wear, and you can control them with a mobile phone. So I'm kind of developing this mobile app so that you can create these patterns of sensation down your back. I took this to a hackathon in the Netherlands where I worked with this amazing sculptor, Aggie Haynes, and we incorporated into this dress that has headphones, and so you have these patterns of sound and vibration, and you have an EEG sensor reading your brainwaves and trying to figure out, are you relaxed enough? No, we're going to create a different pattern, and we're going to try that out. So it's an evolving kind of DIY touch therapist. So in short, I'm making vibrating underwear so you can become more aware of your back, so you can sense yourself better. I'm trying to see whether I can use this to create a DIY touch therapy so you can think and feel better. And as you saw earlier, you can kind of think of this as a musical instrument. You're kind of playing yourself, not with yourself. You're playing yourself. Thank you. If you want to find out more, please go to this website and come talk to me afterwards. Thank you.